This happened last year during a solo road trip I took from Wisconsin to Montana. Most of the roads along the way were basically empty, except for the first and last hour. Everything in between was just forest or open fields, maybe some small mountains the further west I went. Because of how I planned my schedule, I was going to be driving all through the night and most of the next day instead of splitting it into 2 full days and spending on an extra hotel room. I knew it would still be a challenge, but I thought it was worth it. I started driving at 7 p.m. I double-checked that everything was packed into my car with my snacks and drinks in the front seat next to me. Then I hit the road. The first hour was through the city and some small towns, but after that it was open highway. Hardly any other cars and not many places to stop aside from a gas station every 15 miles or so. By the second hour, I'd only used a third of my gas tank. But since gas stations were becoming fewer and farther apart, I figured it would be smart to top off before I got into the really empty stretch ahead. It took another 20 minutes before I finally found a station. There was no one else there. It was just this tiny place with 4 pumps. The convenience store wasn't even open. I pulled in and parked by a pump, got out, and started fueling the car. I'm not sure if it was because the place was old or maybe hadn't been serviced in a while, but the gas was pumping out really slow, almost a full minute for a single gallon. I leaned against my car and waited. That's when another car appeared on the road. The speed limit was 55, but this car was going maybe 20 or 30 at most, passing the station at first but then slowing down and backing up. That was weird and honestly pretty dangerous for a single road like this in the middle of the night. But they backed up to the entrance and pulled into the station, stopping at the pump right behind me. I figured they must have missed the turn and needed gas badly. I kept facing forward toward my pump as I heard someone get out and walk around their car. But after a minute of not hearing them start fueling or moving at all, I glanced over to see what they were doing. The man was wearing a gray flannel shirt and black jeans, and he was fairly tall. He was staring at me. Like when I looked over, his eyes were already on me. I gave him an awkward smile and a nod, then quickly looked away again. Still, I felt like he was still watching me. After about 10 seconds, I finally heard him grab the pump and put it in his car. I felt relieved, thinking maybe he really was just getting gas and I had overthought things. I stood there another minute before deciding I had waited long enough. I put the pump back and locked my gas cap. When I did, I noticed the man staring at me again. His eyes looked so dull and tired, like he hadn't slept but had chugged caffeine or something. I got in my car and pulled back onto the road. Weird guy, I thought, but I didn't think much more about it. A few hours later during the drive, it started raining. I had now been driving for 5 hours and it was just past midnight. The rain made me focus harder on the road, which made the drive even more tiring. I opened an energy drink and grabbed a snack, but it didn't really help much. By 1 a.m. I knew I needed to take a break. My gas tank was running low again too. I drove along the long, empty road until I finally saw a gas station to pull into. It looked pretty run down and was as empty as the last one, but the lights were still on. I filled my tank and then pulled into one of the parking spaces beside the small building. I checked the weather to see how long the rain might last and searched for nearby towns, but there were none. It looked like I was stuck in the middle of nowhere. I figured it was safe enough to take a quick 30-minute nap to refresh myself and maybe wait for the rain to ease up. I leaned the seat back and dozed off. When I woke up, the rain was still tapping on the roof, and my alarm hadn't gone off yet. I had only been asleep for about 25 minutes. I sat up and looked out the windshield. The whole place was quiet, but there was a car parked at one of the pumps. I leaned forward for a better look. It was the same car from the last gas station. I was nearly sure of it. Either this was one huge coincidence or something was seriously wrong. Even weirder, the guy was nowhere in sight, not in his car or outside. I felt the color drain from my face. Where could this guy be? There was nowhere else at this empty gas station for him to hide. Whatever was going on, I didn't want to stick around to find out. I turned on my car and put it in reverse. But when I checked my mirror as I backed up, I saw him, not behind the car. He was sitting in my back seat, staring straight at me through the darkness. I gasped and threw the door open, jumping out onto the pavement. The car was still in reverse, slowly rolling backward. I started running, but never heard the man open the door or step out. I ran into the woods and watched as my car rolled backward for a while before stopping. A moment later, he drove away, leaving me stranded at some strange gas station in the middle of nowhere. That's when I realized my phone was still on the dashboard. I stood there in shock for a moment, standing in the rain and trying to process what just happened. Then I noticed the man's car. He had just left it there. I walked over and found the door unlocked, the keys still in the ignition, and random groceries sitting in the back seat. By some strange luck, I saw his phone lying on the floor by the passenger seat. It was locked, but I was still able to call 911 from the lock screen. I didn't understand at the time. I figured whoever took my car had just been careless and left their stuff behind. But this wasn't their car. It had been stolen too. Everything in it belonged to someone else who the man had done the same thing to as he tried to do to me. From what I later heard, the others hadn't been as lucky to get away unharmed. When I talked with the investigators, they thought the man didn't sneak into my back seat and let me drive off by accident. They believed he was going to wait until we were far on the road to reveal himself. Who knows why? Whether he wanted a hostage or something even worse. He was never caught, and neither was my car.